Good evening, folks. Tonight we have a very special episode of the Cold Takes podcast. We have a wonderful guest tonight. We have Nishquik on the show. How you doing tonight, sir?
Hello, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me, Jay. I've been listening to the podcast. I found the channel, I think, around February, and I was listening to a lot of the episodes, and I'm really excited to be on today, talking about Nintendo, JRPGs, Xenoblade, all that stuff. Yeah.
Good deal. Good deal. So, guys, if you don't know Nishquik, he is literally the foremost expert on Xenoblade lore. His videos are so informative. He makes theories about things. It's really an incredible watch. So, if you have any even mild interest in the Xenoblade series, he is the guy to go see for sure.
Yeah,
So, can
it's
you kind of
funny
tell us
because
about what you do on YouTube?
oh yeah. So basically, I started off my channel like 2 years back. And 2 years back, I was doing like really in-depth analysis videos. Like, I don't know if you guys know like Design Doc or Game Maker's Toolkit. I was doing a lot of videos like that because those are the videos I was really into. I was watching around like 2021 during like the COVID lockdown pandemic, all that stuff. And then I was like, if I want to like really grow, maybe I should like talk about what I'm actually like thinking about with games, like the story, the lore, like what I'm like super passionate about. So eventually, during the hype for Xenoblade 3 was what like that was one of my favorite hype cycles for a video game because the trailers and all the Twitter posts, and it was really great because the game was moved from September to July. So the excitement was like really high, and that's when I started making a lot of Xenoblade videos. And of course, Xenoblade, with the hype and then the release, and then of course Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. We'll talk about that later. But I kind of caught lightning in a bottle with the Xenoblade DLC because I made my first ever Xenoblade theory video. Was like, here's why I think it's a prequel. And I literally had that video in my mind while taking a shower one day, and I was like, I need to make this video right now or I'm gonna forget everything. So I just sat in front of my mic and I just recorded it. And that's one of my favorite videos I've ever made. So I'll talk more about my history with Xenoblade later, but that's kind of the videos I do on the channel. Like some analysis, some lore, basically anything I'm interested with my favorite like video game franchises.
So me personally, I really got interested in Xenoblade with this last game, Xenoblade 3.
Mm,
I had not really played too much of the first two, and none of like the Xeno Saga stuff or anything like that. So when I was getting interested in 3, it was shortly after that I found your channel and your videos were really enlightening. And even though I didn't understand a lot of you were talking about, I was kind of consuming it because like it is something that I do want to get into, and it's
yeah.
cool to kind of have that like kind of like expert knowledge that I'm picking up. So when things will happen in these games as I play them, I can have like a better understanding and some of the theories and mythology that you have behind that.
Yeah, I
So
appreciate that.
I
It's
definitely want to get into that. So what started your love affair with the Xenoblade series?
so it's funny because everyone's like, "Oh, Nishquik, you're such a big fan. You must have been a fan since like Operation Rainfall and the Wii days." Well, I haven't actually been a Xenoblade fan, like a true Xenoblade fan, since like 2020. 2020, with the release of Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, is when I got like really exposed to the series. So let's see. My first actual exposure to Xenoblade was when Shulk was released or announced for Smash 4. And my cousin was like, "Hey, this guy looks really cool. He's got a cool sword." And I was like, "Yeah, he looks cool. You should play his game." I told my cousin, I was like, "You should play this game." And he played it and he was like, "Dude, you need to play this game. It's so good. It's amazing. The story's amazing." And I was like, "No, I'm just gonna wait for Zelda on the Wii U because that's the reason I got a Wii U. I don't want to go out and buy Xenoblade." Or I made some really stupid excuse about why I didn't want to play Xenoblade. And then flash forward to 2020, that same cousin texts me. He's like, "Hey, the definitive edition's coming on the Switch. You should give it a shot." And on a whim, I was like, "Oh, whatever. It's the Shulk game. I'll give it a shot." And I will say it took a little bit to get into because the combat was a little different, the story was a little different. But once I realized that this has like lore, it has good characters, has a good narrative, I was set, and I completed it and I really enjoyed it. I was very hesitant to play Xenoblade 2 because I heard a lot of mixed things about it. So what I did is I actually looked up the biggest story spoiler, which I won't say here, and I was like, I want to know if this is like legit. And then I realized that it was very legit. And then I was like, I need to play this game now. And then I played it and I loved it. There are some things I like more in two than one, and some things I like more in one than two. And then I was like, when is Xenoblade 3 going to be announced? Because it's set up and it like should happen. I want it to happen. And it was announced, and the hype cycle, like I said earlier, was amazing. And I appreciate that you like enjoy my Xenoblade theories and videos, because you got people like Luxon and K Jewelers and NL who are like so deep into the lore, and they know everything about Gears and Saga and everything. And I'm like, one day I'll be half as good as them. But it's been fun, and I've met a lot of people along the ride, like so many other people I've collaborated with, like a friend of mine, Yggdrasil, and so many other people in the Xenoblade community. It's been fun to collab and just make videos on the series.
That's awesome. So do you have any plans to look into Xenogears or the Xenosaga?
Ever since the hype for Xenoblade 3 like kicked off, like I never knew much about Xenogears, but like all the theory analysis videos, like especially like Luxon and NL, they were making all these videos, and they were like, oh, this scene right here looks like a scene from Xenogears, and this character right here looks like a character from Xenogears. And I was like, how? How is like that? That's the crazy thing to me, because Xenogears was like part 5 of a 6-part story, and Xenosaga was supposed to be like him redoing that 6-part story, and 3 seems to be the end of that 6-part story, which has been told with Xenoblade 1 and the DLC expansions and all of it. And once I played 3 and I went back and watched a Xenogears recap, I really understood all the like inspiration that he's taken from Gears to make the Xenoblade games. And I'm really excited to play Gears eventually, but the only thing that's holding me back is like the annoying random encounters and the gameplay, and the fact that part 2 is just a giant cutscene with dialogue. But I basically know what happens in the story, and that's what's motivating me to play the game, because the story is just that good in Xenogears.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I was also
Yeah.
wondering,
Yeah.
as such a big fan of the series, do you have all of the, collector's editions? Do you have a whole bunch of scale figures? Like, are you big into that aspect of it too?
I do have, let's see, I have my Xenoblade Chronicles 3 art book over there. And I have my webcam doesn't like, it's not oriented right, but I do have a Xenoblade Chronicles 2 poster over here. It looks really awesome. I'll send you a picture of that later. But that's like the only merch I have. I have the Pyra and Mithra amiibos pre-ordered, but unfortunately, since I told you I got into Xenoblade in 2020, and I played Xenoblade 2 a year later in 2021. So unfortunately, I missed the amazing collector's edition for Xenoblade 2, because it comes with like a poster, it comes with the CD, and it comes with some other really cool, like the art book and some other really cool things. So I missed that, unfortunately. And then there's a Pro controller, which is very expensive to get now. Unfortunately, I missed that too. But I'm happy I got that art book, because I don't know if you know, but the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 collector's edition was probably harder to get than a PS5 was to get in 2020. And that's saying a lot, because PS5s are very hard to get back then. So I'm very glad I got that.
Nice. Good deal. Good deal. So kind of leading into it, so with talking about big releases, Nintendo is kind of what I want to talk about next, and
Yes.
their relationship with consumers and content creators. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts on what happened with Kotaku, what happened with RGT85. What do you think about Nintendo going after these people for not leaking the stuff themselves, but like just featuring news and small snippets of video from the leaks?
Okay. Kotaku is interesting, because I remember in 2021, this is some backstory. So basically, Metroid Dread was releasing in October 2021. Metroid historically doesn't sell well at all. This was Metroid's Fire Emblem Awakening moment. Like, you know how Fire Emblem Awakening, like, if it didn't sell, then they would kind of axe the series, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of what was happening with Metroid. They didn't publicly announce and say, if this game doesn't meet our standards, we're gonna stop like making Metroid games. but fans knew that like Metroid needed to sell well. We needed to like support this game and buy it. And then it just felt so weird that Kotaku was like, "Oh, this is how you can play it for free at 4K 60 FPS." And then Nintendo takes them down, and like some people were like, "Oh, why did that happen?" And when you see it from like a standpoint from like the Metroid series and all that, I kind of understood where they were coming from. But flash forward to the Tears of the Kingdom stuff, it was I don't really know what else Kotaku did to be blacklisted by Nintendo, but someone came out and said, "Oh, this is how we feel about it. We wish we could play this." And then a lot of the quote tweets were saying, they were bringing back the Metroid Dread situation. I don't remember if there was anything else that led up to this. I'm sure other people have made videos about it. But then I think Kotaku somewhat retaliated by making a leak article with a lot of spoilers. So again, that is a little like, I wouldn't say like it's legally, I guess it's okay for them to do it, but it seemed a little disingenuous. Oh, we didn't get the game pre-release. Here's all the spoilers from the leaks. So it felt a little weird. And when people were like asked about that, like in Kotaku, they kind of likened the situation to a lot of like uh, uh, historical events in the past that Nintendo should not be kind of compared to. I'll just leave it at that. But that's the Kotaku situation. The thing with like a lot of content creators, the Point Crow situation is a little upsetting because Point Crow is a very big content creator, streamer, let's player, speedrunner. He does a lot of speedruns. But the thing is, he did some Breath of the Wild mods, and Nintendo just doesn't like mods. And that's just been the thing with Nintendo for a while. They don't like mods or fan games or anything. And that's just how Nintendo has worked for the past however long I remember. I remember even there was like a Metroid fan game, and it was like a really good Metroid fan game, and then they took it down. And also because they were kind of making their own version of that game, which was Samus Returns. And that was unfortunate. And that is unfortunate because a lot of people and even like ex Nintendo employees like Kit and Krista who do their own podcast, they're saying a lot of this stuff kind of encourages people to go out and buy their own games, even though Nintendo games are selling well and they want you to play on the Switch. A lot of people speed running and doing mods or whatever. It's not necessarily hurting the game because it's already selling well, but it might like encourage people to get the game again and play it some more. That's just my 2 cents on a lot of Nintendo a lot of Nintendo controversy. One thing I can think of that happened recently is Nintendo is just copyright striking left and right. It's a little weird how they're doing it so close to the release of Zelda, which is in about 3 days at the time of this recording. I don't know if you know who Alana Pierce is. She's a Australian I, I don't think she lives in Australia right now. I think she's in America. I think, yeah, but she like streams and does content and whatnot. She was reacting to Skill Up's preview for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and just doing her own like reaction to it. And that was DMCA'd, which is weird because Skill Up was invited by Nintendo to play the game and record his own footage, and she was reacting to that footage. So Nintendo is very weird when it comes to a lot of things. Sometimes it is like understandable when they're striking things and DMCAing. Other times it's like, why? This makes no sense. So yeah, how do you feel about all this?
Well, I actually have personal experience with it.
Oh,
Back when the Mario movie came out,
hmm,
I had taken an innocuous photo to share with my friends on Twitter
hmm.
of some of the Mario line of figures that were not released yet. And I encountered them in the back room of a retail store. I did not buy them or take them. They were not circulated. I simply snapped a picture of it. And they gave me a DMCA strike on Twitter.
Was that
And I had
Nintendo
to,
or Universal or
that
both?
was Nintendo.
Oh, okay.
And I had to take that down. And
Hmm.
it actually made me freak out because it was during one of like when Elon first had kind of
Oh
was
yeah,
settling in, and there was
yeah.
a huge outage right when it happened.
Oh boy.
So it appeared to me, I get the notification about the strike, and then I couldn't access my account.
Oh,
And
that's
so I'm like,
scary.
oh my God, banned me.
The
My
Nintendo ninjas got me.
like, I use Twitter as the driving force behind my Twitch streaming, behind my YouTube content,
Yeah.
podcast. So I was like, oh my God, I took an innocuous picture that had no ill
Mhm.
intent behind it at all.
Yeah.
And here we are. I'm thinking I'm like doomed. And
Yeah.
luckily, it was just an outage, and
Mhm.
I did have to delete the post. And then I was in compliance, so I didn't have like
Mhm.
a lasting strike against my account or
Yeah.
anything. But I was literally offended. I don't care what the legality is. I am sure they had an exclusivity deal with Jax or whoever was going to show those figures first. They were already out. There was already images of them available on the internet.
Yeah.
I was not like the first person to break it. They were not at my home. I hadn't bought them illegally. Like, it was insane. And
Yeah.
I was personally taken aback by that. And so when I see them going after content creators, both big and small, and I have a lot of friends in the Nintendo content creation community, and the pulse on that right now is like some of them are afraid to make Zelda related content. And how is that good for your game?
Yeah.
Literally,
Yeah. It's weird.
social media has replaced the traditional press of newspaper ads and magazines. It should be your driving force. And someone like me covering your toys or someone covering your games brings them exposure. And without that, you're going into this hobbled. So I don't understand why they're fighting it so hard. I understand
Yeah.
fighting like fully leaked games and piracy, that I get. But fighting pictures and little video snippets of some of the leaks, come on.
Yeah. I remember you brought up RGT85 earlier. His situation I remember was there was a leaked ad for Tears of the Kingdom, and many people were making videos on that, either not showing it or just like they're not showing the footage and describing it, or they were showing it but kind of blurring it. I think what RGT85 did was he just like flat out showed it for I don't know how long, because even that ad was like 30 seconds. So he was like, Nintendo had to come to my channel, watch the video, and see where I like put the ad and then strike me. So they're very like particular on some things, and especially with that ad, it did like bring up the buzz and like promote the game quite a bit because of various things in the ad which really excited us Zelda fans. So yeah, sometimes they're very picky about certain things, especially things that haven't been officially revealed yet. Actually, no, even things that haven't been officially revealed, there are some things that they don't go out of their way and strike, because if I remember correctly, before the February Direct, there was like the leak of the back of the box of Kirby's Return to Dreamland. And there was a lot of people like making videos saying, "Oh, look, this is what's on the back." And there is like, "Oh, what you see on the back shows that like there's going to be like an epilogue story or something, right?" And a lot of people made videos on that, but no one got striked or DMCA'd. Whereas like you got a DMCA for like pictures of the Mario movie, and someone else got a DMCA for like a Tears of the Kingdom ad. So it's on a case by case basis. So Nintendo's just weird like that. It's yeah, I don't know.
Do their actions affect your opinion of them as a consumer
Um
or as a content creator?
uh Honestly, not necessarily, because I don't really cover leaks too much. I just like cover a lot of sometimes pre-release trailers and whatnot, or just whatever's in the game itself. So usually it never affects me. What's funny is I've seen some people say on Twitter, "Oh, a lot of what Nintendo has done has made me not want to make content on them." And I replied to someone, I said, "What's funny is the 2 or 3 times I've gotten a copyright claim on my channel, it hasn't been from Nintendo. Once it was from Sony because I used the Last of Us theme song in like a long form discussion I had. And then another time was for like a song I used from like Batman Arkham City or something. And then the third time was, which was the silliest, it was Atlas who copyright claimed the fact that I used the intro for Persona 4 Golden. And I'm like, Persona 4 Golden has been out for like the past almost 15 years now. So that didn't make sense. I from my knowledge, I don't think I've been copyright claimed or DMCA'd by Nintendo at all. But that's just because of the content that I make. But for other people, it might be different. So that's understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still enjoy their games, so that's just me.
Yeah, I think someone saying that it makes them not want to cover it is a little far-fetched. Honestly, as someone who started out covering mainly Sony and PS4 stuff, um, you would lose a lot of your viewers and popularity if you don't cover Nintendo stuff, because that's
Oh
where
yeah,
it's at. I
exactly.
noticed an immediate spike in interest as soon as I started talking about the Switch or anything to do with Nintendo
Yeah.
compared to anything with Sony or Microsoft. And I think that's just the state of social media, whether it's YouTube or Twitter, for like the video game sphere currently. So
Yeah.
anyone who says that, I don't know that you'll see them practice that, because it would be kind of self-defeating, I think.
When
So
it comes to first party games, Nintendo is where you go for first party games. Yeah, I mean, Sony has them too, but like Nintendo is where the first party exclusives are at, in my opinion.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go to break here. And when we come back, we have a lot more with Nishquik.
Volume 4 later this year.
Tell me why! Is this really what you want? Nothing's gonna get through to him. He's a heartless machine.
Guys! Shit! Oh my god!
That wasn't enough for you? Volume 3 of the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 expansion pass for the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 game
Guys,
launches
that's
on
the
the Nintendo
Founders.
Switch system
That's
February
the fountain!
15th.
That's Elvis! Oh my god!
Amigo?
Yes, yes.
And we are back on the Cold Takes podcast with my special guest, Nishquik, and we are going to get right to it. We're going to talk about Breath of the Wild, and we're going to talk about Tears of the Kingdom hype right now. So, Nishquik, what did you think, first off, about Breath of the Wild? Were you a massive fan of the game?
So basically, Breath of the Wild was like officially revealed when I was way back in high school, and that kind of gives you an indication of how young I am. So like in high school, I remember one summer I saw like this whole new Zelda Wii U thing, and I was like, "Oh, this is what Zelda's gonna be. It's gonna be like Skyrim." And I never played Skyrim, I never played Witcher, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be a little open-minded here." I love Skyward Sword still to this day. So I was like, they're deviating from this. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. We'll see. And then we just didn't hear anything for a while. And then it was like, oh, it's not going to be on the Wii U. It's going to be on the NX. And I was like, this is so weird. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't know what to believe. I don't know anything. It's so confusing. And then we got that first trailer, Breath of the Wild. And the only thing I took away from that was that Link can cook. I was like, this doesn't look like Zelda. I will still play it because I'm a huge Zelda fan. Like Zelda is my favorite video game franchise, and Zelda is the reason I love video games the way I do today. But I was very confused. And then the big blowout Nintendo Switch presentation trailer happened, and I was like, "Oh, this game looks good. It looks like it's gonna have a story." And that's what I love about Zelda games. Master Sword, Zelda, Ganon, all that stuff. It looks good. I played the game and the story was very minimal, but it was my first open world game that I had ever played in my life before Skyrim or any Elder Scrolls or Witcher or Red Dead Redemption, and I loved it because it was the best introduction to the open world formula. And from then on, I always crave that kind of Breath of the Wild, Elden Ring, and I call it like the Monolith Soft open world experience because Monolith Soft developed the open worlds for all the Xenoblade games, for Breath of the Wild, and they will for Tears of the Kingdom as well. And it's very interesting how they make these worlds. And I was actually just watching a video on it today. It's basically a lot of the landscapes are very triangular in their shape. So you can kind of approach these like landmarks and these structures and these like cliffs or whatever in different ways. You can climb it, you can go around it. And the approach with the climbing and the stamina and all that, it was very cool because there's always something, always a point of interest to keep you engaged with the world. And I was like, that was the biggest fear for me. I was like, I don't want this game to feel open and empty and boring. and it wasn't. It was the complete opposite of that, and I think it did it very well. And one more thing I want to say about the open world of Breath of the Wild. I think it is the most alive world that I've ever like experienced in a game, and that is because of how interactive everything is. Like you can burn down trees, you can burn down the grass, you can cut down trees and like roll the tree trunk and freeze enemies, and like when you're like hot or cold, you can like hold like a flame or an ice spear and you can hold that weapon and you'll feel like better or whatever. So that immersion makes it a lot better than other open world experiences that I've tried and played. So I will say I was a denier of open air Zelda, but now I'm a believer. And especially with Tears of the Kingdom, it's really picking up the story and making the story a lot more engaging in the present. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Good deal. I was very much a denier. I've always been a huge Zelda fan, and I've consumed all of the games. And the ones that I didn't want to consume because of motion controls, luckily my wife doesn't mind motion controls, so I literally sat there and watched her play through them because I craved the story. So,
Yeah,
Breath
the
of the
story is
Wild,
amazing, Skyward Sword.
I was concerned about the open world. And the little I played of it when I initially got the game, not maybe on launch day, but fairly close to it, it does start slow. And that confirmed my fears. And I gave up on it almost immediately. And in the last 2 weeks, I have been revisiting it thoroughly and properly in preparation for Tears of the Kingdom. And let's put it this way, I'm so emotionally invested in the story, and I'm man enough to admit this. I said it on Twitter yesterday. I was sitting on my couch crying during Mipha's scenes, and the emotion just overcame me. And even in some of the less emotional scenes, with stuff with like Daruk, I still felt it.
Yeah, the
Like,
champions, you even though they aren't in the present, you feel really attached to them. For me, the story thing that really hit me the hardest in Breath of the Wild is everything relating to Princess Zelda and her story. Because everyone is like, oh, Zelda's so annoying in Breath of the Wild. She's not a well-written character, whatever. And I'm like, go watch all the memories and then come back to me. And I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say Princess Zelda in Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite Zelda in terms of like the character development, the writing, and all that. So
I will say you have a great point there. And this is what, my new way of looking at it and telling people, because there's so many heartbreaking things in that game, and we can get into theories about it and all that. But the bottom line is, if someone came to you, Nishquik, and said, you are responsible for saving the world, would you want that? Do you think
it's
you
gonna
could
be
live up
a
to that?
huge burden on your shoulders, and especially like for I don't know how far you've gotten in the story or seen the memories, but I'll be vague. Like basically, if you have that burden on your shoulders, you have one approach, whereas other people have another approach, and you're kind of like it's kind of like a tug of war kind of thing, and you really feel so strongly about your approach, but you have to like
Mhm.
abide by the rules or something. And it's very interesting how they've kind of um tackled that whole theme and issue with Princess Zelda's character, and that makes me even more excited to see what she's going to be doing in the sequel. But yeah, I'm
The
excited for
most,
you to get more of those memories and see what her story is.
the most, because I had watched a lot of it with my wife, and I did some lore research before, and now I'm getting to experience more of it firsthand. But to me, the most heartbreaking thing is that she fails,
Yes,
and
yeah,
it's hard to watch it,
yeah,
because even traditionally in Zelda games, they don't fail,
yeah.
and the good guys are always supposed to win in these games. Didn't we know that? Like, and to see all of the guardians fall, and to see the anguish and pain that both Zelda and Link go through.
Yeah.
And this is following up on A Link Between Worlds, which I feel is my personal most tragic, deep
Oh yeah.
story because of Hilda's failure for different
Oh
reasons,
yeah, yeah.
making poor choices and then having to live with them, and having to make a terrible decision like going after another world's Triforce.
Yeah.
Um, it's very tragic, and
Yeah.
I can relate to that character. And so having these back-to-back experiences for me personally, has really blown my mind and has
Oh
me
yeah.
super excited for what's going to happen in Tears of the Kingdom.
And
And I
yeah.
love her redesign with her hair. I think
Oh yeah,
it looks
yeah. I
adorable.
love her
It's going to be
redesign with her
incredible.
hair and the whole Zonai outfit and everything. It looks amazing. I love that design. So I'm very excited to see what she's up to. But one thing I will say about like the whole like character arc and stuff, a lot of what you said reminds me of Xenoblade. So I'm sure once you do have time and clear up the backlog, I'm sure you'll really enjoy the stories and the character arcs of Xenoblade 1 and 2, especially 2, because 2 has some very, I will say 3 has like you've beaten Xenoblade 3, right?
I have not. I got fairly
Okay.
far into it, but
Okay, so I will say there's one scene in Xenoblade 3 which is the most like tense and emotional moment in the entire series for me. But the variety and like the collection of those emotional, heartfelt moments are all in Xenoblade 2. And they still like are really emotional, really great, really impactful. Always put a tear to my eye whenever I see them and watch the cutscenes. So yeah, had
I will
to
tell
throw
you
in the
that
yeah.
even with characters like Daruk, and a lot of people I fit into this group don't really love Gorons.
Yeah.
They're not like my like emotional favorites or my favorite looking characters in the
Mhm.
series. They are iconic and classic. But even Daruk at the end of the initial flashback they have when he looks at the sky and the scene closes, seeing such a brave, strong warrior look afraid, even if it's just for a moment, really shows you. And the scenes with Urbosa and her
Yeah.
devotion and dedication to Zelda and knowing that she can't save her.
Yeah, and it's Urbosa is very sad because Urbosa was very close with Zelda's mother, and then she kind of like takes in Zelda kind of like as a goddaughter, like adoptive kind of daughter, like she's very close to the royal family basically. So it's really sad that like Zelda and Link have very strong connections to each of these champions. Of course, Link and Mipha are very close. Rivali has a rivalry with Link. Daruk is a little more closer to Zelda and still very close to Link, but Urbosa is very close to Zelda as well. So it's really sad to see these champions fail, but it's really um kind of triumphant to see them like even though it's just their spirit and their ghost, just hearing them talk to you, it's nice to have that. And it's cool that the champion successors are sort of coming back in Tears of the Kingdom. To what extent, I don't know. I guess we'll see on Friday, but I'm very excited to see how the champion successors will play into the game.
So moving forward, how did you feel about Age of Calamity? Because I adored it,
Oh,
100%ed it, and because I'm a huge like Warriors fanboy to start with. So Warriors
uh,
plus Zelda was crazy for me. I probably put 500 hours into Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition,
boy.
and then went crazy on Age of Calamity. What did you think of it?
Oh, you're not gonna like this. But
Oh,
basically, I am of the camp that like, um, when people have like really strong opinions on games, I'm like, oh, did you play it? And if they don't, then I'm like, ah, whatever. But for me, the Warriors games, I have played a few of them. I enjoyed Persona 5 Strikers. I played a bit of that and never completed it. My friends got me Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. I played a bit of that, enjoyed it. Age of Calamity was interesting because that released at a point when I was like, oh, I want more Breath of the Wild 2 news. And then we got this, and I was like, oh, I hope this like leads into the sequel, has some teases for the sequel. It didn't. That's fine. What was weird to me was the whole like I never played the game, by the way, because I just never like I that was during my Xenoblade phase, and like I didn't have time to play the game, and I had some other issues with the gameplay and all that, but that's besides the point. The story felt very strange to me because it felt like a very big retcon from what Breath of the Wild was, because they're marketing it and saying like, oh, this is the story of the calamity like 100 years ago. So I was like, oh, I want them to like you were saying, oh, the good guys always win at the end. I actually wanted this game to end with like Zelda and Link's failures, but I wanted the game to end with the final cutscene of Link waking up from the Shrine of Resurrection, walking out onto the Great Plateau, and they're like, it just gives you a sense of hope that Link will eventually avenge the champions. But I wanted them to kind of go for that like sad ending because No massive spoilers, but Xenoblade has kind of done that in the past, where they've gone for the whole like Final Fantasy VI approach, where like the villain sort of wins in their own kind of way. And I was like, oh, I really want to see what Age of Calamity does with that. Like, how will we see Ganon take this new form? How will we see this fortune teller play a role in this story? And I went back to watch the cutscenes, and it didn't feel as like because I'm huge on Zelda lore. It didn't feel as impactful on the whole grand scheme, unless you think of the fact that maybe Age of Calamity created a branch, like a new branch of a timeline from Breath of the Wild. Like, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom goes on its own, and then Age of Calamity branches off because of the tiny egg guardian traveling back in time. Like, there are things like that. I'm like, was that explained? Was that whole thing properly explained? How random is all this? And it just felt a little weird, but in the end, it's still fine. It feels like a very enjoyable game in the end. And I think it's really cool that you can play as like a lot of the other like Breath of the Wild related characters, like Zelda, of course, and then I think you can even like correct me if I'm wrong. Can you even play as Ganon? I've heard you could.
I believe you can.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then even like all the champions and stuff. So that's one very cool thing about the game. But otherwise, I'm not the biggest Age of Calamity fan, but it's a pretty cool game.
The little egg dude was adorable.
Yeah.
And he's one of the last characters you unlock.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
playing as him is incredible. But mainly me, I definitely buy into exactly what you were saying. Zelda is infamous for its divergent timelines.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I explain it away. The truth is, to retcon all of these characters together into a Warriors ensemble game, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
So I will take that concession in
Mm.
exchange for being able to play as Urbosa. Like,
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah, that
was
makes sense.
that
Yeah.
was literally why I picked the game up. That was like, as soon as it was announced and I found out that you could play as the Guardians, I had to.
Yeah.
Urbosa is one of my favorite characters in the Zelda franchise. And so was Impa. And one of the kind of strange things is how in the Breath of the Wild lore, they have replaced Impa with Urbosa. Impa was always the guardian to the royal
Yeah.
family. She was always Zelda's caretaker. Whether she was depicted as old and like magical, or whether she was physically powerful, she was always in that role. So Urbosa kind of
Yeah.
replaced her in that. So I wasn't as
We got to
crazy
see
as,
that Impa in Age of Calamity, which was pretty cool.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And I loved Impa the most in Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition.
Oh yeah.
Like, just big. She's got like a big around sword. Like, she's like one of the strongest characters. She's just incredible.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. So I can't
Yeah.
get enough of that stuff. And that
My
kind of,
real quick, my one like gripe with Age of Calamity, another gripe is that Impa is there. It's cool that Impa is there, but I think the Impa design is very, very similar to Paya from Breath of the Wild. So at first I was like, wait, is that Impa or is that Paya? Because I couldn't tell because they looked the exact same. And I
yeah.
was like, oh, if she had like a more like differentiating, unique design, it would like make her more of Impa than like Paya, but that's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
But
were
yeah,
just like,
great stuff.
oh, these two are related and this is like they look the same or whatever. Yeah.
So, with Tears of the Kingdom on the horizon here, are you going to get it day one? Or are you diving in day one?
Well, I hope my GameStop copy is delivered on day one. If not, then I'll have to like go to Walmart or Best Buy or something to get it. But I want to play it the day of because I actually released a video like I think yesterday or something. I was talking about how it's been 4 years since this game was announced. June 2019. So it's almost been 4 years, and I still have my very first reaction to Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild, being announced. And I didn't have a channel or anything back then, so I just recorded it on Snapchat. I was like, this is the sequel to Breath of the Wild. This is insane. And like I couldn't believe it because I was still playing Breath of the Wild then. And in my head, I was like, we're not gonna get a new Zelda game for a very long time. I'm not gonna get my hopes up, whatever. And then we got that trailer, and then like 2 years later, we didn't hear anything. And from then on, it was just theories and theory crafting and speculation and all that. And it's all landed, or it all leads up to Friday's release. And I'm very excited for that. And I think it's going to be a very great game. There's a lot of things that have really surprised me with what we've been shown and like the marketing and the promotional material. So I'm excited to just delve in and explore Hyrule.
Yeah, it's definitely my goal to before I work the end of the week, so I'll have my first real significant time with it on Sunday.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to be finished up with Breath of the Wild and fully ready for that by then. So we'll see if I can race the clock and make that happen.
How many divine beasts have you
special.
done in Breath of the Wild so far?
What's that?
How many of the divine beasts have you done in Breath of the
I
Wild?
just finished the second one.
Okay. So you're getting there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm
I'm
doing
sure
stuff
you'll.
on the side. Like I'm just really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the thing is, like, I'm kind of a completionist, so like I may fail to
Oh,
this
yeah.
goal because I want to get all of the outfits. I want to get as much stuff as I can.
Yeah.
I like, just like I did with all the Elder Scrolls games and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and the Fallout games. I want to mark everything on the map and have seen everything. And this does have that little completion ticker in the
Oh, yeah.
corner. So the
Yeah.
Korok seeds. I just saw that there's like a cool app that you can get to kind of help you get them
Oh, that's cool.
on the App Store. It's
Yeah.
got convenient
Yeah.
checklist and stuff.
You take your time with that game because it's such a relaxing adventure, and it's just fun to like figure out all the secrets and find
But
all
I
the
definitely
shrines and do all that.
envision, finishing up the story and then trying to run my completionist stuff after that while I'm enjoying the new game as well. So that's going to be huge.
Oh, yeah.
So I want to get into this lightning round here.
Oh, exciting.
And so these are always fun. I've done them with a couple people in the past. So the people have heard my answers to these. All right. So I may briefly discuss yours, but I want to kind of treat this as a lightning round. So it's coming off the top of your head.
All right.
So I'm just going to go right down the list. I might add in a few that are relevant to our conversations we've had here, but they're all pretty simple. And we'll go ahead and get started. You ready?
I hope so.
All
Let's
right.
go.
Who is your favorite Final Fantasy character?
I will. Jesse from Final Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy VII Remake, yes.
Wow, that is a unique answer. I do
Yes.
Jesse too. That's cool. Your favorite Fire Emblem character?
Owain from Fire Emblem Awakening.
That's a unique one too.
Yes. I
All
really
right.
enjoyed him.
Your favorite Xenoblade character?
Melia Antiqua from Xenoblade 1. Very easy answer there.
Yeah, you answered that one very quickly.
Didn't have to think about that one.
Mine would be Noah, of course.
Oh, Noah's great. Yeah, Noah's amazing.
Your favorite JRPG villain?
Oh, this is interesting. I would have said Jin from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but recently it's now changed to N from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So
Awesome.
I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
If there is one holy grail that you would like to get for your collection, what would it be?
Xenogears on the PS1.
Nice.
Yeah.
What is your favorite tactical JRPG?
It's a very generic answer, but Fire Emblem Awakening, because it's one of my it's my favorite Fire Emblem game. It's one of my favorite JRPGs, and it kind of got me into the JRPG series. So I have a very soft spot for Fire Emblem Awakening.
So Awakening is great, but related question: did you enjoy Engage?
Oh yes, I did enjoy Engage. I haven't fully beaten the game, but what I played of it, I really, really liked it because it really brought back the Awakening vibes that I was missing from Three Houses. And I'm at a kind of like a loss. I don't know which game I like better, Awakening or Three Houses. I need to like continue some of my Golden Deer route from Three Houses to like kind of refresh my memory and how I'm feeling about that game.
Claude is best boy. Golden Deer.
Oh yeah, yeah, Claude is amazing.
What is your favorite boss fight from a JRPG?
I don't want to keep saying Xenoblade. Okay, Xenoblade aside, because I've said too many Xenoblade things, I will say the boss of the 7th palace in Persona 5 Royal. And to be like careful of spoilers, it's the very important politician you fight in the cruise ship. And I'm specifically saying Royal because Royal does something very creative with that fight that the vanilla version does not. And I really enjoyed that.
Good
So
deal.
yeah. Yeah.
What is your saddest scene in a JRPG?
Oh, that is tough. I think it's a tie between the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country and uh actually no, scratch that. It was the entire chapter in Fire Emblem Awakening post Emeren's death. Like the whole chapter where the song is Don't Speak Her Name, that song is playing in the background. That is one of the best moments in video gaming for me. And it is probably the saddest moment in all of video games for me as well.
Good deal.
Really, really great moment.
What is your favorite MMORPG?
I haven't really played an MMORPG ever. I could cheat and say Xenoblade because it uses MMO style combat, but I will cheat even further and say Final Fantasy 14 because I am possibly looking forward to maybe playing that game someday. Because I know some friends who are like, hey, if you ever start playing 14, play it with me. And I'm like, maybe that will become my favorite MMORPG in the future.
I played it for quite a while, and then my wife kept playing it, and she's like able to do like the expert stuff now. So yeah,
Right.
it's really good. Definitely check that out. What is your favorite summon in the Final Fantasy franchise?
I will say I'll say Shiva because Shiva was very fun to use in 7 Remake. This is gonna sound very weird. I love JRPGs, but the only Final Fantasy game I've played to completion is 7 Remake. And that's an entire different story for another time, but I'm gonna go back to the Pixel remasters and play them. I will say, yeah, Shiva and Ifrit are up there. And from what I've seen with 16, like the trailers and stuff, the Garuda summon looks very cool as well.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So what would you say is your favorite song featured in a JRPG?
Well, I'll also say this to preface, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is my favorite OST in all video games. And my favorite song from Xenoblade Chronicles 2 always changes, but right now it is a song called The Tomorrow with You. Very, very emotional song that kind of encapsulates everything that is like everything that that game means. So yeah, that's my favorite song from a JRPG probably.
Awesome. And the last one I got for you, if you had to choose a class and you were in a fantasy world, what would your job class be?
I would choose specifically the Dark Knight or the Mage Knight from Fire Emblem. And it is the Mage Knight / Dark Knight who is on a horse and can use swords and magic tomes. Because I think that's really cool. In Engage, I made what's his name? Clan. I made him a Mage Knight. And he's really,
Nice.
really good. And in Awakening, it was what's his name? Laurent, I think. No, not either Laurent or the other guy. There's a guy who looks like Batman, basically. He's a Cherche's son. He looks like Batman, and I made him the class Dark Knight because I thought that was funny. Dark Knight, and he looks like Batman.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good deal. All right, so that's the lightning round there. So our viewers got a little, look at your opinions and history there. So that's pretty cool. So we're getting close to wrapping up here. So why don't you tell us about some plans you have for your channel and tell us where all these listeners can find you on social media?
So, I have been doing a lot of Xenoblade videos after the release and after I've completed Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed, the DLC for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I made one about the Xeno dads, I called them, like Shulk and Rex having grown up. That video is doing really well. You guys should check it out. Channel is probably in the my name is right here, NiskquikPops, and it'll probably be in the link in the description and all that. But yeah, Xenoblade videos will be frequent throughout the year. And Zelda videos, I will be trying my best to do that as well because I will be playing a lot of Tears of the Kingdom. The thing is, Zelda content is, I wouldn't say it's hard to make, but it's hard to kind of stand out from the crowd because the competition is very, very high. But it's always really fun to talk about Zelda because Zelda is my favorite video game franchise. So look out for Xenoblade and Zelda content. I want to also diversify and do some like general JRPG discussions about like some games I've played and games I'm excited to play. And one series I want to talk about more is Persona and Shin Megami Tensei, because that's also another like series that I really enjoy, and I want to talk about that more on the channel probably this summer. Hopefully we'll get some more Persona news with Persona 3 remake and all that. But on Twitter you can find me at Nish underscore KELK, and I'll send that, and it'll probably be in the link in the description. And Instagram you can find me at NiskquikPops, and on YouTube NiskquikPops as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Jay, for having me on the Cool Takes podcast. It was a lot of fun.
Good deal. I certainly appreciate you coming on. I'm sure our viewers enjoyed your expertise in the field of Xenoblade and JRPGs. And listeners, as always, I thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, stay creepy.